Hello YouTube, welcome back, and this is the third part of my video here into the new machine I bought yesterday, which is the Vaxair Cordless Lift Duo. The last video we did a look at the features of it, and we did a comparison of it to the Vax Air there, which is the basically what this is modelled on. That's the 1200 watt corded version, and I compared the suction levels between this and this using the mini turbo brush, which is that there. I also compared the suction using the mini turbo brush on this compared to the Dyson V6. So that's in the previous video to this, which is basically the features and comparison video. But this one's going to be the pickup test. Basically what we're going to be doing is, what I usually do is to put some dirt down on the floor of various types, and we're going to see how well it picks up on the carpet here, and then we're going to go in the bathroom and see how well it picks up on the lino. I have to use the bathroom because I can't use the kitchen due to I've got floor mats down on the hard floor in there. That would involve having to pull all the floor mats up, so we just use the bathroom floor, and it shows basically how well it picks up on lino. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the camera down and we're going to look at the dirt on the floor to see what I'm going to ask this machine to pick up. Now, it's not a big mess test, this isn't. It's sort of a mini mess test. What we've got here basically is some, this is this sort of to simulate the larger debris here, which is basically cat hair that's down on here, which is this is the contents what I've picked up out of the house in the last couple of weeks, basically, which is just general household dirt. I put some cornflakes down here to simulate a spillage of those. There is bits of rice and other stuff down on here as well to add into the mix, and couscous, and it's the usual sort of stuff that I put down for big mess tests, except this is just in a smaller quantity because that's only a battery vac. And I wouldn't have to expect this to pick up the... Well, I suppose I would do a big mess test with it in due course, but not today. And then on the other side here we've got... This is the finer sort of dirt. This is basically... Again, it's a similar sort of mix to that there, but we've got a lot more rice down here. There's more porridge oats and there's more flour. So we've got the fine dust here, and the slightly larger particles. So that's the source of the cat hair and all that on that pile. And then we're going to see how well it does on this. And then I'm going to go into there. I don't know whether we can just see it, but I've already laid out the dirt on the hard floor in there. And I'm going to start with a clean filter. Obviously this machine's brand new. It hasn't really been used much yet. I did a little bit of a test with it last night, but I have cleaned the filter, and we will just... Literally, I will pull that out of the top, and you can see from that, when I rub my fingers across there, there's nothing on that at all. It is clean. So we're going to see what that looks like after just picking this up, and we'll test the efficiency of this dual cyclone unit inside here, and we'll also see how much drops back out of the floor head after use as well, because some of these low powered battery cleaners, they tend to not quite manage to pick up the harder stuff, the heavier stuff like the rice, and it can sometimes, when you pick the cleaner up afterwards, drop back out to the floor head again. So what we'll do is we'll sort of do one half of the dirt in the normal mode, and then the other half of it, I'll go down the one half in normal mode, and then the other half in the boost mode, and we'll see if it makes any difference. So let's put this filter back in. Like so. Click it back in. The battery, if I turn it on, is fully charged, and it's in standard mode. The hose is correctly located. There are no blockages. So this is basically the machine is in its most powerful form with clean filters, and don't forget that as this machine gets used, that top filter will become dirtier, obviously, so it will lose some kind of suction, and it doesn't have much suction to begin with. The suction on this is comparable really to the Dyson V6 in standard mode, as I demonstrated on the last video. So let's put the camera down on the floor here, and in fact, we'll put it on the side and I'll focus down. So just bear with me a sec while I do that. There we go, and we'll see, first of all, what it picks up in normal mode. Can I get that camera a bit? Yeah, I think that's about right. Okay. So I'm going to go along the front half first in normal mode, see how well that does. Right, so that's just one pass over the mess, and what we can see from that is that from where it's been, it has not done a bad job. I believe Roger's done a demonstration of the pickup test as well, that's iBasiac, using his Mark 1 version of this, which isn't the lift-away version, and he was quite impressed with the performance as well, in that it's quite able to pick up the large debris. There is a little bit of fine dust left here. It hasn't got absolutely everything up. And on this part here, when we look at this, you can still see that there is remnants of flour still on the carpet there. So whilst it was able to pick up the oats and much of the rice from here, and there we can see the pile that hasn't been cleaned, which I'm going to do in max mode in just a sec. But basically it's not quite had the power to pick the flour up on the first pass. So I would say it will require multiple passes to get that off. And then when we look inside the bin, what we can see here is that a lot of the dirt has actually, because I picked up such a large amount in one go, some of it's gone into the bottom, which is what I wanted, but some of it has got trapped around the shroud. So that, before I carry on, is going to need to be emptied. Some of it still remains inside the brush roll here, some of the flour in particular. That's a symptom as well of low suction, basically. So we'll see how that clears when I turn it on to max. Let's just, there we see. When I shake the floor head, some of it falls back out again onto the floor. So some of it has remained actually inside the brush roll compartment. So that's just literally from one pass on that mess test there. And you can see as well that there's a fair amount of flour stuck to the machine. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I will empty this bin into the bucket over there. So bear with me a sec. So I'll lift the top out. And then we'll put the filter back in. I'm not cleaning the filter at this stage. Put it back in the machine. And now we will do the same thing again on high power or on boost. Okay. Right, so that has produced a little bit better results that time. As long as you go slowly and give the machine chance to actually pick up the large amounts of debris, it hasn't actually done a bad job through that line. That again is the bit I didn't go through, and we can see the little bit in the middle as well, where again I didn't go through, where the darker dirt is. Looking at this section here, this is from the low power pickup, where you still see the flour on the carpet, and that's from the boost mode, so there is still some flour left in there, but not as much as on that side. And again, it's picked up all the rice particles. Again, you can see the bits there which were on the side where I didn't go with the machine, so it just goes to prove that there is a lot of rice down on there. So it's picked that up absolutely no trouble at all. It's picked up the oats, no trouble at all. But it seems to have struggled slightly with the flour. And I think Roger found that with his as well. Because this machine basically is a battery vac and it's fairly low powered, you're going to need multiple passes over that dirt, which is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to leave it on the boost mode and I'm going to do multiple passes over that until I think that carpet looks clean and see how much it takes. But this time what we've noticed is that the shroud doesn't seem to be as badly congested. But nevertheless, you can see there that it's picked up much of the stuff that I've asked it to do. There is some stuff stuck in the floor head, and again I will shake the machine. And we've got a fair bit dropped out. So I would say really it seems to be that wind tunnel channel at the front where more of the dirt seems to get stuck. The actual part where the brush roll is clear. It's this bit on the front that goes over the top, in other words, the wind tunnel channel. And we can see the flour in there, and there's some rice as well. So again, that's going to need multiple passes to get that out. But that is rather an extreme example. I know Roger uses that phrase as well. Would we use a vacuum cleaner to want to pick up that much mess in one go? You know, some mains powered vacuum cleaners would struggle, but this has only got 150 watts, and I consider really that that's not done too badly, considering it's such a low powered machine. And all I would expect this to do normally, in normal use, is to go around this room picking up cat hairs and the odd little bit of fine dust that might accumulate from day to day. And I think it's more than capable of doing that. So let's just empty this bin again. There we go. I'm just literally emptying the bin into the bucket there. So I'm going to just lift the top off, bucket out. Remove the filter from the top. Remove that to get the trap dust, but it's easy to get the trap dust around the shrouder by just lifting that out. Very easy. There we go. Put it back together. I always hate doing this because I get covered in flour. I'll put the filter unit back in. I'm not showing the filter at this stage, but it's not being cleaned. So that's that. Back in the machine again. And I'll put the camera back. This time I'll put it back up on the top and focus down onto the area where we're going to be going over again. There we go. And we will see. In fact, what I'll do, I'll have to put it back on the chair because it won't cover that whole area from the top. This is the problem with not using editing software, you see. It's because I've only got the standard editing software that comes with Windows, and it takes so long to do editing on it. It's just so much of a bother, so I just don't bother with it now. There we go. Let's just give it a good going over then. On boost. Right, there we go. That's given it a fairly good going over, and I think what we can see now is that it's pretty much got it up now. I did do multiple passes there, probably more than I needed to, but we can see the flour's pretty much gone. So, whilst it's not going to probably do it in the first pass, as we've seen there, it will do in subsequent passes. So, I think that's acceptable really for a machine with literally only 150 watts. But nevertheless, it's some of it has remained trapped within this floor head here, and that's why when you heard me tapping, I just tapped it like that, and I could see little bits that were trapped in here being sucked through. So, like I say, let's just turn it over and have a look at the bottom. There we go. So there are a few pet hairs trapped on the brush roll there, which I get on just about every vacuum cleaner. You end up getting cat hairs on the brush roll. If I remove the base plate, so we can have a look inside there, what I tend to think is that it seems to get jammed or trapped more so in this front channel here. This part here where the brush roll is, you don't seem to get any jams, and you don't get any jams here either. It's got a nice large exit port for that large debris to go up. So I was actually surprised that it didn't get clogged when I sucked those great big clumps of cat hair up. That was pretty good. I was quite impressed with that. Because I've obviously picked up loads of flour, around the outside of the machine here is a little bit dusty, which I've had that single issue with every single machine that I've used for big mess tests. They've all had flour on the underside afterwards. I'm not trying to defend the machine, but I'm saying I've got to be fair with it in that it is a cordless machine. It's not a 1200 watt mains powered. You know what I mean? And you've got to think, what am I going to use this for? And I said in my last review, it probably won't, in fact it won't, be a total substitute for a mains powered vacuum. It's for quick cleanups of light amounts of dirt. So if it's managed to pick all that up, I mean that's pretty good, isn't it? So let's put this sole plate back on, and then we'll go in the bathroom with it and pick up the stuff off hard floor. And again, I would imagine it'll probably have the same issue where some of this will get stuck in the brush roll afterwards. So there we go. We'll have a look at the bin, and we can see all the fine dust is inside here. That's fantastic. I'm not having a look at the filter at this stage, but we're going to go in there and do the bathroom floor now. So there we can see it's pretty much the same as what was in the living room. It's rice particles. I put some gravy granules down here and some flour as well, and there's also some porridge oats here, and we're going to see how well this does. So again, like last time, I'll do one half of this with normal power and then the other half of it on the boost. Right, and the brush roll will be turned off, as they advise you to do. That's normal power. There's normal power. I'll have to hold the camera this time as we do it rather than put it on the floor. So yeah, exactly the same as in the living room. A small amount has fallen out of the bottom of the brush roll. You can see the flour there in the floor head. It hasn't managed to pick the flour up off the hard floor. It's picked everything else up. It's taken the rice up and it's taken the oats, but it hasn't picked the flour up. There's still bits of flour down here. So I will try it on the rest now with the boost on. But what I'm worried about with that is that will it pull the lino up to the floor head and cut the suction off, which I do find an issue on this type of floor. Right, so let's try it in the boost and see what happens with that. Yeah, so again a small amount of these are a couple of gravy granules have dropped out the bottom, so not much big dirt drops out. It does mainly pick the majority of it up, except the flour again. So we've got, I've gone over this a couple of times on boost mode, but it struggles with this flour. I can't remember whether Roger had the same issue with his. I don't know whether he did. I think he might have done his on hard floor. I'll have to go back and have a check. I think he probably did, but I'll see how we got on with his air cordless, but it doesn't go well with flour. I will try it with the brush roll on actually now, just to see if that will remove the flour. See what happens. If it sounds like it's damaging the floor, I shall turn the brush roll back off again. So power on, in goes brush roll on. Well, that actually was better than I thought it would be actually. With this, really, this type of floor, using a brush roll on an upright turned on here is usually a no-no because it can possibly damage the floor, but because this brush roll is quite soft, it's actually done quite a good job, and there's not much evidence either of anything being scattered behind. So I think if you were to use it without the brush roll on to pick the large stuff up first, and then switch the brush roll on afterwards, it basically does, it picks most of that flour up. There's one small amount here, a little bit there. If I run my hand over it, yeah, it's pretty much got it up, just one small bit there I've missed. So that's not bad, not bad at all. I'd recommend then really that you could use the brush roll on this type of, if you've got fine dust, turn the brush roll on. But yeah, let's take it back in the other room and have a look at the filter. So it's basically done what I've asked it to do, and it might have taken a little bit longer and a few more passes than you would with a high powered upright, but nevertheless it's able to pick up most of what I put down for it. And I'm going to now take the bin out and I will have a look at this filter. There is no large debris in the top here. Basically it's all in the bin where it should be. Earlier on today I opened up these screws and had a look inside this, and basically it's exactly the same design as the Dyson Dual Cyclone inside. It's got one large cone with 3 entrances around the sides. Maybe the Dyson one might have more entrances to the Cyclone, but this has got 3 entrances. The dirt will go in through those small holes in the shroud. It'll come up the side of the cone and enter into the cone via one of 3 separate entrances. Spins round inside the cone and drops out of the hole at the bottom into the fine dust area. And I think really that has actually worked better than I thought. There's no pet hairs in the top of here. This filter doesn't seem to be too bad. There is, I think, a very small amount of soiling on it. Let's just rub my hand over and see how much flour's on there. Next to nothing. I tell you what, that's better than I thought. I wish this camera would focus properly. There we go. I was expecting that to be absolutely coated with flour and fine powder and bits of pet hair. There's nothing at all in there. There's been no cheating going on. Absolutely no cheating. I wouldn't lie on this. That's actually very surprising. Well, there we go. It isn't perfect, not by any stretch of the imagination. It's an old design now. People have had issues with the back wheels, so I would say if you do pick one of these up on eBay, you can get it for less than 70 or 80 quid, then it might be worth it. Just for a quick clean up in between main cleans, a quick whip round to get the pet hairs up. As long as you're not going to go picking up large amounts of flour with it. I mean, some of it's left in the floor head here, yeah. I get that issue with other cleaners. But I'm really, really quite impressed. And you know what I'm like, being critical with machines. But I have to give it this amount of leeway in that it's a cordless machine. It's got 150 watts of suction power. The hose suction isn't wonderful. It doesn't drive a turbo brush. So I think really this is going to be basically a larger capacity stick vac. You can use the hose, I suppose, for picking up light little bits, but it's not really heavy duty. But it gets what it needs to get up off the carpet in between your main deep cleans. It's not a deep cleaner. It'll get surface dirt up, and it's proved that. It's picked the flour up, everything's in the bin. Nothing pretty much is in the filter, so the filter doesn't get dirty as quickly as I thought. So there we go. Any comments below? I know people will say, oh, it's crap and the wheels fall off and everything, but I'm not too worried about that. I know how to look after the machines. It cost me 100 quid, and I think it's quite good. So there we go. I will probably have a bit more videos with this in the future. There'll be some daily clean videos or just vacuumings. But there we go. That's the video done.